Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you the much requested how to master a track in Ableton. So, I have this track in front of me. It's a pre-master, meaning it's a finished mix, but it still needs to be mastered. I'll play you a little snippet real quick. This one's for those of you who always want to see me make techno. So as you can see, and perhaps here as well, this track, like I said, it's finished, the mix is done, it's ready to go. It just needs to be mastered, because you can see, when you get done with a mix, usually you have a little bit of headroom in this pre-master. And then what we're going to do with mastering is we're going to get that level up there to 0 dB, and just sort of like maximize the track, make sure that it's as fat as it can be, as powerful as it can be, as sharp as it can be, all of that kind of stuff. We're just taking the track and, we're mastering it. We're just going to take it and really finish it. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is we are going to get an EQ8, and I did this a lot in my track from scratch videos. This is a really, really good technique if you're mastering like dance music or really any kind of electronic music. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to make a high end boost, we're going to make a low end boost. And then we're also going to cut around, let's do it at 250 hertz. There we go. And then we're going to turn up the Q there and turn down the gain a little bit. And so I'll show you here's without this, and then I'll turn it on. So this is a trick that a lot of mastering engineers use these days, and it's really good for, like I said, like techno or electronic music or any kind of dance music. Basically what we're doing here is we're just kind of focusing in on the things we want. Like, we're focusing in on the low end, giving that a bit of a boost because obviously, you really want that with techno. We're also focusing in on the high end. You can hear if I turn this off and then turn it on. This really adds a lot to like the hi-hats and kind of like bringing that range out, as well as like the high end and the synths and stuff. And then we're making this cut at 250 hertz. So I'll show you, I'll just turn that off. And then turn it back on so you can hear. That really helps to just kind of get rid of some of that mud. Sometimes the kick or the bass or the synths that are kind of in the low mid-range can have a bit of mud to them. And so that's just kind of cleaning that up. Again, you can hear the difference with that versus without it. So then the next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to use a little bit of saturation actually, and I don't like to go really crazy with this. I'll show you though, like I'm just going to put it up maybe +3, and then we're going to put the output down a little because it gets really loud. Let's go +4. So you can hear, here is without this. And then with it, I feel like this is something that really just helps to kind of like fatten everything up and really like, I don't want to say squash the track together, but sort of like glue it together, If I get another saturator, and we'll turn this output down a bunch and then just turn the drive up. So you can hear what's happening there. You can hear it a little bit more subtly here. It's really just like crunching everything together, right? Like this is what happens when you put like a really full-bodied sound through distortion, is you get the low end and the high end and the mid-range just all sort of like crunching together and making this big glue, this big like sonic wall of sound glue type of thing. And so if you use a saturator to a much less degree, like in this case, you can get that same effect where it's helping to glue everything together and kind of like fill in the spaces, you know, but without it being so extreme. So that's what I've got here. You can see I just have to drive up a little. Again, without it. And with it. So just, again, it's like, this is one of those things, like, we're trying to squeeze out every last little bit of fatness that we can from this track. And this is a great way to do that. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to get a compressor. And what I'm going to do with this is we are going to turn the threshold down. We're going to turn off makeup gain as well. But we're going to turn the threshold to about there. We'll give it a little bit more of the output. That's good. And then we're going to turn the ratio down a little. And then I'm going to also turn up the attack time a little. And you can hear that kind of like opens it up a bit more. So I'll show you. Here is without the compression. And then with it. So once again, you know, it's doing a little bit. Like, it's not the most noticeable compression, but it's really just taking everything and helping to glue it together. You know, it's like if I heard this track without this, it's a subtle detail. But if you played me this track without this, and then you played a track right after it with this even with this very subtle amount of compression on it, I feel like it would make a world of difference. Like, I'm trying to show you guys that these really small details really do make the difference. And then with the compressor, with the way I've set it, so like I said, I turned the threshold down a little. You can see it's really just compressing the peaks. You know, with master compression, you don't want to go too crazy. If we start getting it down there, it just gets too much. But then after that, I've got the attack turned up as well. And with that, I talk about this a lot, but the way the attack works is basically how long it takes for the compression to kick in. So I can kind of show you this if I grab like a kick here. So with any kind of percussion, or really any sound, you have what's called a transient. And I'll find a sample here really quick. Alright, let's take this one. So you can see if I zoom in on this, we have like this little section, and then we have all of this. And so that little spot that I showed you first is called the transient. If I zoom in on that, you can basically hear that. This one doesn't have the hardest transient, especially compared to like a techno kick. And then after that, we have the body of the sound. And so what can happen is, you can see, if we get rid of the transient, it's way too soft, right? Like, it just doesn't have that, like, that punch to it. So this is where the attack of the compressor comes in, because if you're going a little bit too crazy with the compression, you know, sometimes you can compress not just like the body of the sounds together, but also like those transients. And what'll happen is, as you would imagine, you'll flatten out your transient and your drums will have no punch. So this is where the attack comes in, because we can turn that up and we can have the compression kind of kick in, you know, instead of just kicking in right at the start here, we can kind of make it do something like this, like with that fade, where it would just be kicking in there. So it's a nice way to kind of control it. And you can hear, again, it makes a world of difference in terms of like the transparency of this compressor. Like, if I turn it off, and then turn it on, it just feels like it's opening up the mix so much more. Cool, and then the last thing that we're going to do here is we need to get the volume up to 0 dB. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to get a limiter, and I'm going to just turn up the gain a bit. Let's do... Alright, let's do it like that, because now it's hitting 0. So basically all I did there was I just turned up the ceiling. The ceiling is just how loud you'll let it go. But for some reason by default it's at like minus 0.30 or something. So I just put it up to 0 dB. which does make a pretty big difference actually. But then also, I've got the gain up here. So what we're doing with this limiter is we're just doing a clean gain boost. It's not doing any kind of limiting. It's not doing any kind of, well, it's doing a very small amount of limiting, but I'll explain that in a second. But it's not like, it's not what you would think. You know, it's not just like that. It's not just flattening it out. We have this to a very tasteful level where you can still see dynamics there. Like, you can still see the master moving, and if we looked at the waveform in the finished track, you would still see, you know, some definition. It wouldn't just be a brick. But what's happening here is basically, if we do, like, say we just do, like, a clean gain boost using a utility, right? Like, let's just get a utility on there. We'll do 3.5, same amount. You can see, it'll be good. And then for, like, a second, it'll go over in the left ear or the right ear. Or it'll just go, like, slightly over 0 dB. Like, it's very hard to catch it like this. I mean, it's pretty much impossible because every moment of your track is completely different. And so this is where the limiter comes in. You know, it's not so noticeable, but if there are any points like that where, like, just the left ear goes over or just the right ear goes over, or it goes like a hair over 0 dB for 2 seconds, you know, this will catch it, and you won't be hearing it because it's such subtle limiting. But yeah, it's really adding, it's really allowing you to get that professional volume and really get it like as loud as you want it to be without having any problems. So I'll show you. Here is once again the dry track, and then I'll just turn the mastering stuff on one by one. Cool, so you can really hear the difference there. So I believe that is going to be it for this one. Thank you very much, guys. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. You cannot get the project file and samples from this video in the description, but you can get all my other sample packs, all my other project files, and the link at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, you can also get them there. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.